So this is something I've not done before, but during my exploration of theories and discussions for my favourite book series, films and shows, it wasn't hard to make a jump to an in-depth look into writing. And also I'm finally putting my creative writing degree to use. Now, this first study will be looking at characters, the driving force of a story. Without characters, you don't have a story. And that's what I'll be exploring today, the character's story, also known as the character arc or character growth. To understand these arcs and growth in our characters, I'll be using examples from film, books and television to show how they work, as well as relying on expert studies from various craft texts. A big thank you to the Hodder and me for not throwing out my uni books. So let's get started with, what is the use of arcs? James R. Hull of Narrative First says that main characters need to grow. A story cannot develop organically if the principal characters within it do not grow and adapt to the shifting dramatic tides. That's how stories work. Now, this growth can come in many forms: emotional growth, intellectual growth, physical or even mental growth. It could be internal or external, reactive or unreactive. Basically, growth can come in any form, but there must be some kind of growth or nothing changes. Of course, there are some cases where the main characters don't change, like Paddington. Now, Paddington himself doesn't actually change. He's still the kind-hearted bear he always was, but the characters around him change because of him. But films like Paddington are often the exception to the rule. Development is important. Take Korra from Avatar: Legend of Korra. Now, I know not everyone was on board with Legend of Korra, get over it, but the growth Korra had from book 1 to book 4 is undeniable. The same can be seen with all the main characters in Avatar, but we'll focus on Korra. Ray Frensham's book, Break into Screenwriting, makes a great point about the development arc. He says, ask yourself, where does the growth begin? Why? What causes it? What changes are they going through? How do they react to these changes? Where do we first see some indication of change? How do we see it? And what do they make of it? So let's answer these questions, shall we? We'll look particularly from book 3 and 4 of Korra, as this is the clearest. Where does the growth begin? At Janora's tattoo ceremony, after the trauma caused by Zahir and the Red Lotus. What are the changes? They are physical from her injury and mental from the PTSD. How do they react? She runs away, disappearing from her family and friends, and joins a fighting ring to ignore her problems. The first indication, Korra's silence and tears at the end of book 3. We've never seen her this way. How do we see it? In her body language and the difference in her. She isn't the same girl that she was. What do they make of it? In the end, Korra embraces it, realizing that she needed to change, and this, however difficult, made her a better person and a better avatar. It is from this example that, when we compare Korra at the start of the series, a hard-headed, spoiled, and sheltered, with no real grasp of the outside world, teenager, to the strong, hardened, and learned adult she is at the end, the two people are very different. And that's a good thing. However, Korra's arc spanned 4 seasons. Not every character arc written has that length of time to grow in. But growth and change can happen in as long or as short a time as the writer wishes, as long as the audience believes it. Audiences always hunger to know why a character acts as they do. If you provide this motivational dimension of character, satisfy the audience's natural hunger to know why, then you've already begun to separate yourself from the common herd of would-be writers. The audience is who needs to be impressed, and to me, the most impressive arcs are the subtle ones. While it is great to go from the boy with murdered parents to the hero of the city, or a District 12 tribute who was there to save a sibling and ended up becoming the face of a revolution, the subtle ones intrigue me the most. Take Saving Face for example. Will, our main character, is a young cardiovascular surgeon with a bright future, an overbearing mother obsessed with getting her a date, and then she meets Vivian, a free spirit, ballet dancer and an out and proud lesbian, who Will can't help but fall for. But she's not comfortable with who she is, struggling to accept or show affection, fearing what people might think and say, and oh my god, she's saving face. I just got that. Wow, okay. Anyway, Will goes through levels of struggles both with her sexuality, her career and her family. However, by the end of the film, the development of her as a character has slowly and realistically occurred. She has experienced the frustration of her girlfriend, dealt with her mother's romance and pregnancy drama, been accepted by her mother, and then lost her girlfriend to Paris. She knew she had failed herself and Vivian, but she'd also mended the relationship with her mother. But when Vivian returns, Will makes the first move. Will dances with her in public, and Will kisses her. She has changed. She has learnt from her mistakes. The action of this film was Will's relationships, and her growth from and with them. As Sid Field says, either the character drives the action, or the action drives the character. Good characters are the heart and soul and nervous system of your screenplay. And that's Will in this scenario. She is driving the story through her choices and actions. Taking her mother in after she's kicked out by her parents leads to the struggles in her relationship with Vivian, and her actions with her relationship cause the breakup. Will has these small moments of growth within the film before the finale of her arc, such as coming out to her mother after the breakdown of her relationship with Vivian. The actions and reactions to the fallouts is what leads to the conclusion of Will's growth, and this is the case for most character arcs. Growth and driving action are useful when working out how to get your character from point A to point B, but while it's great to have the action and know how they will change over time, if a character doesn't have motivation, these parts become a moot point. Motivation is everything. Motivation is the character, and in Tim Hickson's On Writing and Worldbuilding, he says just that. People do not just do things without motivation. They are driven by primal forces: love, lust, greed, hatred, vengeance, and adventure. The reader cannot empathise with a character's journey if it's not motivated by relatable elements. How to Train Your Dragon is a perfect example for relatable motivation, minus the dragons. Unless you have a dragon. Do you have a dragon? Anyway, How to Train Your Dragon features many different characters, all of whom face different arcs, motivators, and action that span across 3 movies, but all connect together in a wider story. Take Hiccup, the disappointment of a son who goes on to become the first dragon rider, a strong and competent leader, and later a dragon saviour. Hiccup's motivations predominantly stay the same across the franchise: adventure and love. Now, most would think adventure would be the main part, but I think it's love. Hiccup's actions are driven by his want to impress his father and have him be proud of him. Then there's the relationship with his best friend, Toothless. They both saved each other in many ways. Hiccup releasing him, Toothless protecting him from the flames, Hiccup fighting to save Toothless from the Alpha, Toothless becoming the Alpha to save Hiccup, and eventually this love is needed for Hiccup and Toothless to say goodbye to each other, for their own safety. Love, more often than not, was the biggest motivator in this franchise, with adventure a close second. Every main or side character has a motivation. How to Train Your Dragon is the best example for a writer wishing to understand motivation in characters, or even any of the elements I have discussed. Now, to put all we've looked and talked about into a summary. Character growth. When creating your character's arc, there needs to be some form of growth with them. It can be small or big, like Zuko going against the Fire Nation and joining the gang. If your character doesn't change, they aren't developed. Character or story action. Action is a part of the story. It can be driven by the characters, or the characters can be driven by the action. Like Katniss Everdeen volunteering for her sister. If you don't have an action point, you don't have a story. Character motivation. Motivation gives your character a drive. It may be primal, it may be based in a backstory, like the death of Bruce Wayne's parents being part of why he became Batman. Motivation is your why. If your character has no why, they have no character. If you're able to work with this, your characters will feel real before you know it. Want some exercises to test this out? Try the Proust questionnaire linked below, coined by French essayist Marcel Proust. These questions are said to reveal a person's true nature. Give it a try on your character. You may learn something new about them. Or, for a growth experiment, give your character a life-altering event and think how they may react to it. Once you find your character's limits and strengths, you can determine what is required to create a potential change in their nature. There are many different exercises you can try, and I'll link a few more down below. Give it a shot. You may find the break you've been looking for to cure a case of writer's block or develop a new story. Just remember, while the story grows, so must your character. Hey guys, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I absolutely loved making it. It's something that I've been wanting to do for ages, looking at writing and analysing different techniques and styles. And if you guys enjoyed it, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below so I know, because I will be making more of these in the future, so it would be good to know if you guys will enjoy it. Also, let me know if you guys used any of the techniques that I mentioned and if they were actually helpful, because that would be nice to know. And if you've got any stories that you're working on and you want someone to bounce ideas off of, I'm always open. You can hit me up on Instagram, which is linked in the description box down below, as well as the link to my Patreon, where on Patreon you guys can get early access to any and all of my videos, as well as say as to what comes out in future. Here on YouTube, however, if you guys aren't already subscribed, go to the button down below or click the one popping up here on screen. If you want to check out any of my previous videos, a couple of suggestions will be popping up here. But again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.